look at the top lane. It was straight in to the easy camp next to the mid, but they used it in combination with heroes like Darkseer, so then you'd actually gank up the middle lane. Your Iron Shell, your Surge in, you have the open wounds, and you just basically go to town in the middle lane. They don't really have that kind of option when you run, obviously, Clinks instead, but at the same time, Crystal Maiden as well as Wisp, if Clinks gets a really good start, their names will be written on multiple tombstones.
Yeah. The one thing, though, about Navi is Clinks and Lifestealer. Lifestealer is actually very good against Tiny, because when you rage, you can't get Craggied, and you can just go to town on him and hit him, and Tiny's base armor is very low, so Feast is quite strong against him because he goes to like a lot of health items, right?
Yep.
So when you're just hitting the Tiny, you become almost unkillable because of how much health you actually get from just hitting the hero. But when the game goes later, Lifestealer typically goes for those, I want to play hyper-aggressive, you know, Armlet, Abyssal, where Tiny goes more of a super hard carry. And wow, Viper here coming out for Alliance. I love that pick because Viper is amazing against Puck. Like there is not a Puck in the world who sits there.
And Lifestealer as well, right?
Yeah, he's exceptional against Lifestealer too. As long as you wait for Rage before you use your ultimate, then it's great. So I would actually favor Alliance during the laning phase here in the second game.
Well, Bruno was just showing there on the stats there was a chance to vote for whose lineup you like more.
Is that
in the
accurate?
Twitch chat.
It's
Is it a matchup?
100%.
Over how many games? We don't know.
We don't know how many games, okay.
We lack the technology, but that's still pretty remarkable. Overall win rate, though, 61-60. That could just be one game. You never know. But I think the overall win rates, I think that's more telling, and it's only 1% of it, so it's pretty much nothing.
Well, looks like everyone's going to be taking up their heroes, and we'll hop into the game in a second. But I think Alliance's lanes are actually very strong, almost to a point where I wonder if Navi are even going to be able to pressure, because they have two heroes that don't pressure well. Lion and Clinks kind of need some levels, and Clinks especially, he needs the farm, just to make sure that he can do some damage. And he needs levels too, because he needs to be able to get his ultimate. But either way, we're going to see how the lane shape up on the side of Navi
by the way,
and Alliance. Yeah, I don't know.
No, I don't know quite what it is.
It's been happening for a couple of days now. But yeah, apologies for that. We are inside the game now. We're going to see most likely a defensive lane coming out from Navi, have the Chen in the woods, have Funnick farming the safe lane. Just wondering if Havos is going to be left to his own devices here.
I'd probably go with that, man. Like, it's like if you leave Havos on the top lane up against Loda, I'm not going to see a massive problem for him in the early stages. Later on, once Loda starts funding some levels, then there will be some problems. But it's a very, like, it's a basic lane. Like, you know what's coming your way. You can put Lion up here in the top lane. You can keep the Wisp out from at least harassing down Havos. But, and again, actually, no, Havos has moved all the way down. His items are coming out in the courier right now. He's got Salve as well as a whole, like the Stout Shield. He's built to do both. Like, he's built to tank up damage on the top or tank it inside the jungle.
I think if they're going with a defensive tri-lane of Alliance to make sure that the Wisp and the Tiny can get their levels, you're not going to dive a Lifestealer most of the time. Even if he puts 1 point into Rage, that's enough to disjoint the Avalanche, which is the only way they could actually engage onto you.
Yeah.
So,
unless it's like the perfect toss backwards would be like the only extra option you got. But by doing such a thing for Alliance, like Admiral Bulldog's going to get zoned out. Like he's already trying to come down for the rune, and Kuro's just saying like back off a little bit, man. This bottom lane, Funnick's going to have free farm. And for those who don't remember, like Funnick, before he became part of Navi, he used to play with Goldblack a hell of a lot, playing up with Team Empire, and it was his hero. They would give him as much space as he'd want. He would rush up before he built up anything else, just having this Orchid, and then would rotate, and he would kill off lanes to a point where you just want to GG out at 15 minutes, because you realize that once the Orchid was up, your support heroes had no chance to move around this map. You were basically just doomed for the rest of your life.
You know who was doomed a lot last game? Loda.
LOL!
He was doomed like every single fight. But, you know, thank God he's not going to have to suffer through that this game. Like, I felt for him. Every single time there was a team fight, Funnick just turned on the tunnel vision and he was like, yep, you're getting doomed.
There were quite a few fights in that game where it looked like it was going okay for Alliance. Like, there was a lot of damage done. But then it turned out, oh, wait, no. Like, Funnick is just going to remove Weaver from the game and go around stomping and chopping everybody to bits.
Well, that's the whole purpose of the Doom pick in general. But this time around, it's not going to be anything crazy like that on the side of Navi. They're more or less relying on Funnick getting a pretty good early game, which he should get, considering there's no one really contesting his farm. And I just remember the days of almost every game that Empire used to play when Funnick was playing for them. It was like a Darkseer versus Clinks, no matter like what team, because everybody loved to do that. I think Mouse did it a lot too. And it was always Funnick who came out on top, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what he brings here.
As long as Funny can keep Admiral Bulldog off this lane, I'm fine with this. But Admiral Bulldog's still finding some form of CS, even though he's taking a lot of damage. He came down with 2 sets of tangos as well as a Sow, so he should be okay. The primary lane actually out of everything I'd want to see is this middle lane. Like S4 up against Endy, how long is it going to take before Kuro as well as Puppey rotate? And will they even be ready for it? Like I'm looking at the warding right now for Alliance. There is nothing, absolutely nothing watching the runes. Like in fact, both runes are in the dark right now. So Alliance don't know if this top lane, like a Voss, he could be walking around with an Invis rune right now. You could have Puppey and Kuro being smoked up and ganking up the middle lane. There's just no way that S4 can know this.
Well, Viper is not really a hero who relies on runes so much, but I get where you're coming from. Like, you obviously don't want the other team to be able to get runes and have that kind of freedom.
It's just knowing the gank is coming. Like, Puppey and Kuro, like, this is it. You knew it was coming. The timing is right. You have a troll already up and running. And S4, they just dive under the tower. As long as that troll gets a trap on S4, it's done its job. Like Puppey, the smoke now wears off, but S4, he's already too close. Kuro comes in with a Hex to start with, they go with a Chen Nuke, and now with a follow-up stun, the orb damage as well. S4, it's like absolute clockwork coming out from Navi without actually picking clockwork. While Lavorst up on the top lane, he's going to rage and TP out. The toss from Loda will actually cancel this one up, and Lavorst, he's really slowed down by that tether, but he's still got Salve available. Now he'll trigger it off, and they can't finish him off. This is the problem about Rage, even with the toss on maybe. Whoa, EGM! He's going on the ball team! Getting back past the tier 1 tower. Takes a huge amount of damage for it. But they do finish off the offlane lifestealer.
I still have to say, though, that was a pretty long fight and a huge commitment just to chase him that far and even go for the tower dive after the fact. Killing Viper mid, though, this is one of those old school tri-lanes dodging each other situations, and speaking of trouble.
Yeah, Admiral Bulldog, he almost, well, Kuro's sitting up high for this one. Looking around, now the Hex to go up to start with an Admiral Bulldog. Kuro, he's going to follow up. Wait, that was a little bit off target. And the applause for a failed stun is actually coming from the crowd. I think we have a very, very biased crowd here.
A little bit. It's okay, though. It's fine. As long as you're a fan of Dota, you can be a fan of any team you want.
Interesting way of starting up this Tiny for Loda.
Oh, phase.
We get aggressive phase boot Tiny instead.
This used to be the standard, though, let's be fair.
True.
Before everybody started going Aghanims every single game, it was always phase drums, Yasha, and then maybe into Aghanims after that. But everyone would go for mass mobility and make sure that you can just chase anyone, because between the movement speed that you get from Bro and the fact that you'll have phase drums and Yasha, you're 522 when you're tethered. Easy.
Do you think that's because they're probably thinking they'll have to chase the Clinks down a lot, and maybe you'd want the speed rather than anything else? But they're not going to catch him anyway,
Well, being fast is pretty much always good.
Yeah.
There's not really a downside to being really quick.
Well, indeed.
But on the other side, like, you still got the Wisp that's going to buff you up. So this is the reason why they stopped being done.
Do you think he still gets Axe later, though?
Oh, I'm sure he'll get Aghanims at some point. If he wants to make a transition into a carry Tiny that's going to be able to contest a Clinks and a Lifestealer, he will probably have to go Aghanims.
There's really no choice, Ben.
Yeah.
It is an essential hero, essential item. How's Phonic doing? Mr. 31 for 11 down here on the bottom lane. He's got a lot of money. Like, he's got a lot of money.
Yeah, I think that's really
with.
dangerous, actually, just leaving him.
I wonder if he actually goes Midas before Orchid here.
I bet he does.
I think it's a little bit risky doing that if you're against a Wisp and a Tiny, because if you imagine buying a Midas first, by the time you have your Orchid, the Wisp and a Tiny will be able to relocate gank you. Like, you're not going to finish the item before that time. But if you go straight for the Orchid, at least it'll be close. Whereas you're investing the other 1,900 gold to make sure that you can get more farm later. I think it's a bit of a risky play if he does.
We're about to see a holy schmuck coming towards the middle lane. S4, you're decent up, man. Hexed up, even dream calling Chen Nuke. The Centaur just need to let up the stomp and just hits him down. So again, we see another rotation gank. EGM, whoa, what are you doing in this close? He's looking for the ball hit onto Kuro, who was at a 44 life points. And Dendy also not looking too healthy. With EGM taking the entire aggro, he had to back up.
Dendy wasn't looking for a kill. He was like, oh man, it's 6 minutes in, I want the rune. And he manages to get himself a haste on top of that. So really nice movement continuing to come out from Navi, getting those kills on mid. That's one of the only things about Viper that is kind of not great, is he's kind of like a Shadow Fiend. But in this game, Navi actually have the potential to move, where yesterday when we saw Liquid play against Alliance's Shadow Fiend, they really couldn't move on the map. So I think that's the one biggest difference.
Just found EGM. I think he was moving up. He controlled that one. EGM's toast. Absolutely toast.
If he'd run towards the Tiny, I thought he could have tethered to the Tiny and got away.
Maybe. It's hard to say, though, because if you tether, there's a high likelihood that Dendy gets at least one more auto attack off, which is all he needed after the orb and the silence hit. So would have been hard to get away from that. And plus he had a haste, so yeah, I mean, even if he tethers to the Tiny.
There it is. It's the money hand.
Kind of felt actually weird too that Dendy TP'd up towards that top lane. I'm wondering if he thought her boss was already level 6 when he did that. But he got lucky that he found Aya where he was. The initial objective probably was to try and kill off the Tiny.
Yeah. Well, killing a Tiny is still really hard if it's just a puck. He has 900 health even with phase boots. Like, how do you just go up there as a solo puck without even max waning riff and say, oh yeah, I'm just going to solo kill you?
Yeah. If you had a life steal that could infest in, they could just like piggyback on the back of the haster and then it would have been a little bit easier for him. But still rough.
S4 is just not having the greatest time right now.
Admiral Bulldog hook shots in on the bottom lane, pops off the dust as well, so he can keep Funnick in here in the cogs, but Funnick at the same time, he's got a lot of life points up his sleeve. Admiral Bulldog's going to stick with him, he's ticking him down, but then there's your extra lifeline. This is why Navi will never pass up the Chen. There's always a little bit of extra in case of tough times.
I don't think he needed that heal. Like, he would have probably lived either way.
Safety first.
He had a death pack, so as long as he found a creep and death packed it, the battery assault would have worn off anyway. So he actually didn't need that.
Either way,
it's still nice to have.
Yeah, it's nice.
You're not going to say, no, don't heal me.
Unless later on, there's just like that moment, like 30 seconds from now, it's like, damn it, puppy, can't you heal me? Give me mana. Kuro, okay. Kuro was stalking him before, and now he'll get the Hex, the stun, and then there should be Chen. Nuke? Nah, just a right click from Puppy. He finishes the job, and it goes forward.
Exactly what happened in the last game. The constant rotations, Chen all over them. I guarantee you will see Chen banned in the next draft.
Toby brought up a really good point, though, is like the lack of vision on Alliance is really what's making this such a hard game for them. They've been forced to ward the high ground on their side of the river mid just to protect S4. The problem with that is they still don't have any way of seeing smoke ganks. So any time that there's any movement so far, it's pretty much been a smoke.
Yeah.
They're going to lose this mid tower shortly. They got Saturn regeneration, toughness aura, as well as the undead army they can raise, which is now raised. And S4 and Arcade, like, what are they supposed to do against this? It's difficult enough to push it down. There's no backdoor regeneration. There's just that one little creep that's going to be there. And then tornadoes. They can't come in close. If they do, they die. And Avast, he's just sitting around next to Loda, but Loda can't bring down this top tower fast enough. He went hand of minus to start with as well, so there's just no extra moolah like going into items yet that help him to push. It's just into more money. And now S4, well, there's a TP coming in towards that mid, and it's Admiral Bulldog who shots in towards Kuro, and Kuro, he just being sent back to base by Chen. He's got up almost everything he's got, and now, he didn't get back in time. That was a really, really long time, but they still got the kill on the clockwork. More support coming in. Funnick looking at S4, and wow, those searing arrows. Level 4 really hurts. While Wild Wings start attacking on Crystal Maidens. It still leaves as a 1-1 trade, but Denny wants more. DD Rooney's already used that Dream Call in the mid-fight. Try and chase down Arcade. That one right click. 93 life points. One more attack from Denny. He's got the orb available as well. Arcade will not be able to live through this one. The question is if Denny can be overcommitted. And now the orb, he got avalanche stun, still able to phase shift himself away, and now TPing away. S4 can't reach him. They also can't see him. That's why they're tethering it up, rocking it up, and it's all too late. Denny's away.
Really nice play by Dendy. And now, things get a little bit harder for Alliance. Losing the mid-tier 1 is huge because Navi now have a lot more room for Funnick to farm especially, and he doesn't have to worry about getting ganked as often when Alliance are the one who are trying to get map control back, right?
Yep.
Loda has decided to go for a Midas, which means that there's still going to be some time before his hero really comes online. And even if Wisp hits 6, there's not a whole lot of durability on this Tiny right now. This is not a Treads, Aghanims Rush Tiny, or what we saw Era do yesterday, which was Treads into drums, and they're coming to gank him right now.
Yeah, Loda, while you farm up, you're vulnerable, and that's why Dendy and Avast, they just move him. It was a slow infest, and now Dendy's going to look for another one. EGM, the Dream Call, he'll take the stun, and Dendy gets himself a double kill. This rotation in Game 1 and Game 2 is perfect. The hook shot's going to miss, but in the meantime, S4, he's getting nuked down by Funnick. He is just hitting everywhere on this map, and hand of minus use.
I gotta say, looking at the game so far, Navi versus Alliance, I had my doubts about Navi, I think they've pretty thoroughly put my doubts to rest,
Yeah.
considering how well they're playing right now. Just the rotations, everything that they're doing is pretty much spot on. I even kind of favored Alliance's draft in terms of what kind of potential they had for the laning phase. But every time I think about the lanes, Navi destroy them because of their rotations. It's all about the supports.
He's coming out. Dandy doesn't have Dream Call though, but there is the army. And there's a troll trap to go off if Dandy wants to try and silence. No, he won't. They don't know the support that's there. Actually, yeah, they don't. That Observe Ward's an interesting spot. It semi checks up to the tier 2 tower, but doesn't see the deep movement and rotation up towards that top lane. Still want to point out 2-man, 12 minutes in. No ulti for the Wisp yet. They don't even have that global presence from the IO.
Yeah, 12 minutes in and no relocate is not really the start that Alliance were looking for. And the more time that goes on, the closer Funnick gets to his Orchid.
Bulldog's dead.
Yeah.
He's down too far.
Maybe.
A couple of searing arrows and a finger of death will be more than enough.
It's going to be hard to kill him, though. He's sitting in a really hard spot to engage on.
He knows what's up, I think.
If they had a creep wave, it would have been fine. And Kuro's watching him move back and forth. With a Blink Dagger in, they've got Dream Call available as well. They may not even have to use the Finger of Death for this one, but we'll see if the committal's going to be there. Hex, follow-up stump. Yep, they don't even need the Finger. Admiral Bulldog's just dead for the burst damage from the orbs. And then Avors comes up towards top lane too. He's got support by a double Centaur and Troll army. If you get trapped, you were sitting there for a very long time.
Was it Hani yesterday we saw on the Lion?
Yeah, he played it mid against OD, I believe.
And he fingered every single time for the kill secure. This time Kuroki's playing like a true support.
Well, I think it's just knowing when you have to use it and when you don't have to use it.
Always have to use it, Andy.
When we saw
Always
Funnick last game, when he didn't Doom Loda because he knew that Loda was going to die anyway, it's like having that kind of, you know, that kind of sense to say, okay, well, I can just save it for later. Especially because that ability is such a long cooldown at level 1, it's 160 seconds. So being able to hold on to it is always nice.
Maybe once he hits level 2, he'll start zapping people.
Yeah.
RK and S4 are trying to get some kind of trade-off right now. They've lost all their tier 1 towers, and they haven't claimed a single one off Navi just yet. And with a catapult, maybe they can dish out some kind of damage to mid. But look where Funnick and Kuro are. They're sitting just back behind the tier 1 tower. There's already scribbles going across that middle lane. And that was coming out from Kuro just saying, like, can we gank this one up? Should we push top lane? Denny Orb Trick. Now going to be done if he gets his timing right, which he does not. Orb Trick failed. But we have Orchid now fully finished up on the Clinks, and the Dagon was purchased up as well for Puck.
Pretty aggressive choice, but considering how Navi have been playing this, I think it's fine. You can just go in, burst a hero down. Like, even S4 doesn't even have 1,000 health right now. So everyone on the side of Alliance is relatively squishy. The highest HP is the Tiny. He's got like 1,100, maybe a little bit more. But everyone else, Dendi can almost solo kill, which is a really big problem, because if you give Dendi that kind of presence on the map to say, if you catch anyone, you get a free kill, Dendi's going to go to town.
Yep. We've hit that point again. Meg is up. Hand of God is up. Navi can just 5-ball this now. Like, Tiny is able to get himself one tower down the bottom lane. At least EGM now has relocate, so they have the option to remain down here until the rest of the Alliance, like the 3-man of Alliance, is ready to fight. But it's tower trade. They don't want to go up towards this top lane. The tier 2 tower is already forfeit. There's no point wasting the fortification. Alliance has really been backed into a corner, tower by tower. And there's very little they can do about it until Loda is ready to fight. And he's still another 2,000 gold away from being even slightly ready to fight.
This is one of the first games where I feel like a team is actually being punished for going Midas.
Yep.
And Loda is the perfect example because he went Midas, but he didn't get Treads, so he doesn't really have a healthy stat gain right now. He's got the point booster now, which is good, because it gives him the extra 200 health. But the biggest issue that he was running into is he can't actually live through a Lifestealer range. And that's why people were typically going for the Tread Strums into
bottom lane. The managed to pitch. Well, they should be able to pick up Funnick right now. They do so. Having to use almost every single ability. At the same time, Crystal Mania gets sniped up by the DD Puck in the middle lane. And the tier 2 tower goes down. And while Whisper Tiny are on the bottom lane, the middle lane can just push in. It won't bring down the tier 3 tower. I thought that he will throw at least one DD hit up the hill, but it's a 1-for-1 trade. Better trade though for Alliance. But they lose the tower, so not a better trade for Alliance.
Yeah, I was going to say, better trade for Navi for sure. Getting the tier 2, even though Funnick dies, still good, because Funnick had finished his Orchid anyway. So.
Look at Dendy already on the hunt again. At least he's now on for Alliance. They can see what's coming.
Yeah. Gem and Smoke on Chen.
It's super aggressive warding too, which I actually do like, because it's one thing to ward up your side of the map, but when you're warding up your side of the map, when you're already really far behind in terms of map control, you say, well, okay, great, we can see them in our woods and we still can't do anything about it. But when they're in their woods, you can potentially set up ganks, look for other people on the map who might be isolated, and then try to use the Wisp relocate to get yourselves back into the game.
So I've got a question for you, Andy.
Okay.
You generally say that Alliance are a team that leave themselves with heroes that give them a chance to come back, like comeback heroes.
Right.
Do you see Alliance as having in this lineup
You'll have to wait a
against what
second.
Navi have got?
Loader, dead. Orchid, first Centaur stomp, second Centaur stomp, EGM
Ouch.
tethered into this now, so he might even be in a little bit of trouble if Funnick wants to try and commit to this. And there's already one arrow, and now you see how much damage Clinks is able to deal to that. Lion just nukes down the Crystal Maiden on the way in, and EGM is able to tether back out to Admiral Bulldog. But RK, he really wished he didn't come in to plan, like, even to help then.
As far as what you were saying, Ted, when it comes to, I think you were trying to say, do Alliance have a chance to come back?
Just that normally they leave themselves that chance. Like they've got the heroes or they've got the opportunity.
That's what the Wisp Tiny is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because at any point in the game, I think it was either No Tail or Arrow who said it during the winners interview yesterday, that combination can at any point in the game get a tower.
Yeah.
You just relocate, overcharge, Tiny with Aghanims, kill a tower. And that's what allows you to come back, because even though Alliance... relocate.
We're going bottom lane. They're looking for a Vost. Admiral Bulldog, he actually tries to block him in with the cogs. And now Loader, in she swings. A Vost, he needs to try and infest, jumps back out again. He needed a dire creep wave to help him through this one. Funnick, though, just destroys the EGM and then goes through one, goes through two. He's going to get a triple kill.
Craggy.
He needs to slow him. Run faster. Loader turns on his tail. He sees Kuro coming in. The avalanche as well as toss hand and goal be used. And Loader, triple kill. Leave it. There it is. Tiny gets killed by the catapult, the most powerful creep in the game.
He got craggied so many times.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That would have been an easy triple otherwise.
Then he just also jumps in on the Crystal Maiden. There's that Dagon going to work. It is not a fun place for a hero that's so fragile as Crystal Maiden. It's the second time that's happened now. You've got Finger of Death and you've got Dagon to deal with.
Navi are looking like the dominant Navi of old.
Yeah,
but I
they
think
really
everybody...
are. They haven't brought this yet in the Dream League, I don't think. They've lost some games I didn't think
they haven't played this well in the entire tournament.
Yeah.
They're playing the aggressive style. This is what you were asking for, Period. This is like Dendy Puck jumping around the map. The rotating support.
Don't give him DK. Don't give him his other. You give him someone like Puck and he's making it happen.
Yep.
To take nothing away from, Funnick's Clicks is just wrecking them.
I just love the fact that we're having a game right now which isn't like Weaver farming on the safe lane kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like a Voss, the number one player is in the slot number one for Navi. He's gone on the off lane both times, and to a point where they've almost sacrificed his level of farm. Like, we just now have another armlet coming up, and it's almost exactly the same timing as game number one that Lifesteal is able to pick this up. It's taken him just sub of 20 minutes to get that armlet up, and now he's ready to fight. But the playmakers, the space makers, it's really come through. First the Doombringer, now the Clinks as well, but it's the combination with Denny's rotation that helped with even a Vorst. It's just good rotation, it's good movement, and it's being active on the map as opposed to sitting back and farming. That's what punishes the Midas.
See, I think that was the hidden message that Puppy was saying the other day, is that Havost is 4. It's not that he's 4th best, it's that he plays 4 now because he doesn't actually get a safe lane. He just gets put in the off lane every single game.
Next level. Kuro, he has got so much money. He's got a blink dagger with a point booster. He could just jump and initiate and then allow Dendy to come in, just nuke down whoever he wants. And Dendy, while he did start up on the Dagon, I got a funny feeling he got a call from the Mon Capitan to go inside the Vice now. So they had a Hex towards the mix. Roshan's also just been started up. The Rocket will scout it out. But Funnick right now is a Lifesteal sitting inside of him. He's ready just to nuke down anybody they can find. And Avors is playing no hand starter.
It's really nice to be able to just take a stretch in the middle of a game and be like, yep, just gotta wait for the fight to start.
Just having a snack. Is he? No, he's got his hands on the keyboard.
He's ready to pounce at any moment.
And there goes Roshan in favor of Navi. And now the hunt will start up. The hunt for one hero to pick off that makes the push into the base actually possible.
I don't even know if they need to get a pick, that's the thing. Between Funnick's damage and a Chen, I think they could just siege the tower. Like, do they really need to make sure they get a pick?
Sorry, I just saw him just walk straight up next to an observer ward. I thought instantly Denny was going to jump and kill. It's all right.
No, it's fine. I actually would have thought that too, especially since he has the Aegis, but he's just going to wait for the Hex. I think it's fine. You get another 300-400 gold and you'll have a Hex. And since the Tiny doesn't have a BKB yet, he's still very susceptible to just getting blown up. Even though he has a lot of health, he still has only 7 armor.
Wow.
And if he gets silenced, he just dies.
S4's going to be careful. Poppy starts off with the nuke and sends the Centaurs forward as we just see strafe searing arrows going into now a fortified tower. While top lane, at least Alliance are getting something up here. At the same time, there's that jump that I was talking about on the Crystal Maiden. Destroys him on the top. Loader will take this top tier 1 tower. At the same time, though, he knows he has to come back in a moment.
That is only their second tower.
But at least it's something. At least
Yeah,
it's something.
it is something, but
They're using the strength of what Wisp and Tiny is capable of doing. Funnick, though, just stands on the high ground. With no fortification left, Alliance need to fight this, and they need to fight this now. BKB from Funnick, and wow, S4! He buys back, Clockwork jumps in, the Cogs will be there, Horse jumps out as well, but Clockwork, he almost disintegrates. Kuro got a double stun on the TP in, with the Wisp holding Lotus having his mana drained out, and now he's in a lot of trouble. He basically doesn't have enough for a combo anymore. Then Lotus will just get nuked down by Poppy. It's a double kill for him. Kuro jumps in, stun over on EGM. He already got the perfect double stun. The arrows are flying up there, searing, just burning EGM down. And S4, at least you'll say he'll have 12 one charges. Dendy, he's going to try and fight this one out a little bit longer. But now being sent back to base by the Chem, he's okay. 21-4, Alliance have basically been ravaged in their own home.
Things look very difficult for Alliance. I mean, what else can you say?
Yeah.
Navi, the first 2 games have just been all over the place in terms of aggression. Their drafts have been solid. I think Alliance drafts continue to be fine too, but it's just always come down to the laning phase right now. Like, who gets the advantage during the early game? You look at Viper versus Puck and you say, well, the Viper should pretty much win that matchup. But Dendy was still doing well in the lane, even prior to S4 getting ganked. So I feel like Navi are just playing on another level today.
Yeah. The only thing they're really going to be careful about is that fact that Horse, oh man, he's going to try and go on EGM. Admiral Bulldog, he baited out the first hook shot. They toss him back. They're looking for the Cogs, and now the hook shot actually flies astray. But Horse, he's in way too deep. The Meg charge keeps EGM alive. They throw him an urn as well. And Funnick again will trigger the BKB while Dendy, he is very, very deep in here. He had a little bit of a frostbite in the tail of that orb out. The rocket will fly up too, so they've got the vision of him. Unfortunately for Alliance, there's no hook shot, but Lotus coming in. He's got Avalanche and Toss, and they need to just keep chasing Denny further up. He's got Blink Dagger and TP, but TP 4 seconds away. Hagen's Immortal is also up his sleeve, but with the Toss, S4 throwing very deep in there, slowing Dendy down again. The Spirits are going to keep flying out. The Rocket scouts Dendy out, and they need this done, or the damage, and they don't have either. They attempted the Toss, but I don't know.
That was awkward. Anyway.
Was that even like the starting Toss to throw him back to the well? Doesn't really work like Fudge does it.
It looked like he just threw him to the creep wave.
yeah.
Maybe he was just like, I give up. I'm not going to be able to get a stun.
But this is one of those things where Alliance can work their way slowly back into this game. The Tiny is getting bigger. They can snipe off towers. If they're not even going to snipe off heroes, they can just relocate and just try and take out these towers once Loader gets a little bit more farm up his sleeve. I almost want to see him do something, because I was watching Alliance. Like in their one practice game they played before they started today, Loader was actually playing the Tiny.
Yeah.
He was actually practicing on the Tiny, and he went something which I'm wondering is even maybe is worthwhile. The Mask of Madness is something he did attempt. Because you can basically destroy the towers quickly. May not help you completely during the fight.
Yeah, no,
that attack speed you will need during this fight. They need to kill off Navi quickly.
I think if he mastered Madness in a fight, I think that would be a death sentence.
Well, if he had a BKB, he would still take a lot of damage from the Clinks and the Lifestealer, but in terms of backdoor, Mask of Madness is really nice.
Yeah.
Because you can just pop it when you relocate in, kill the tower, get out right. But you don't ever want to take an engagement with a Mask of Madness because you just make a sad face as soon as somebody hits you.
Yeah.
It's really painful.
Denny's about to hit somebody. S4 uses that Hex. Dream calls up on both EGM as well as S4, but the tether is there. And then the hook shot in from Admiral Bulldog buys him that space, but Puppy in the meantime is just killing off Loader. Admiral Bulldog and RK, again another double stun, and just lets Funnick dish out the damage. Navi is the one who gets the kill on Dendi, and then they just go in deeper. And GG, game number 2. It was only a matter of time when we get our second game of Navi and Alliance GG'd out before the half an hour mark.